Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 418 for the 23rd of October 2016. Richard Saunders here with you from Sydney, Australia. Transitioning seasons. It's hot and cold today. The sun has got a sting in it, but there was a bit of a cold breeze. It's a bit weird. You're never really sure how to dress for weather like this. Never mind. Dress as you please to enjoy the Skeptic Zone. And this week, a big episode packed. Chock-a-block, and lots of little notes along the way. We're going to kick off with the first of many interviews Eran Segev, the president of Australian Skeptics, did at the recent QED, Question Explore Discover in Manchester. Very jealous of Eran. I wish I could have gone. Maybe I will one day again. Anyway, Eran's going to kick off his series of interviews and reports from QED with a gang from a relatively new podcast. You no doubt have heard of them, or you listen to them, because we play promos here on the Skeptic Zone. The ESP. The ESP, the European Skeptics Podcast. An interview coming up at the top of the show. And what a great podcast that is. If you don't subscribe, maybe you should. Following that, it's a report about a man who saw the folly of his ways once he started using so-called natural treatments to treat his cancer. And when that didn't work, he sort of snapped back into reality, we might say. A warning, a cautionary tale coming up in the middle of the show. Then a story from the Raw Skeptic, Heidi Robertson from the north coast of New South Wales, from the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters. All about deadly Australian animals. Are you thinking about coming to Australia? Are you scared of the spiders and the snakes and the ticks and the sharks and the wombats? Well, wombats aren't so dangerous, I suppose. And the other things that creep and crawl and can bite you. Heidi has news for you. News for you. What's the real story about Australia's deadly animals? And to round off the show, I chat to Brad MacClure from the New Zealand Skeptics. He's going to tell us all about the upcoming New Zealand Skeptics Convention in beautiful Queenstown. Now, that's at the beginning of December. More information during the interview about how you can get your tickets if you're listening from New Zealand, or if you're listening anywhere in the world and you would fancy a trip to New Zealand, why not go at the beginning of December and take in the New Zealand Skeptics Convention or conference? I'll be there on hand to give a talk, bend a few spoons, bend a few ears, and have a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to that convention. Now, a few little notes about other things before we get stuck into the show. Next weekend in Sydney, nothing to do with the skepticism. Next weekend in Sydney, I'll be speaking at and demonstrating at an origami convention. Why not? I'll be teaching people how to fold origami Pegasus and making lots of things for lots of people. If you want to come along, check it out. There will be a link in the show notes for this week. Folding Australia 2016 Origami Convention. I'm really looking forward to that. As many people know that it's more than a hobby for me to do origami. I've written many books on it, and I make jewellery and earrings and all sorts of things. And, of course, I invented the little origami Pegasus for James Randi. Looking forward to that immensely. Maybe I'll see you there. I'm also looking forward to, incredibly, amazingly, almost indescribably, Mars the Live Experience. Now, this is brought to you by the good people at National Geographic. Now, this promises to be an amazing evening. And because it's so amazing, I'm happy to let Skeptic Zone listeners in Australia know about this, because live on stage, amongst many other people, will be none other than Buzz Aldrin. Wow! A chance to see Buzz Aldrin in the flesh, one of the great figures in science in the 20th century. Of course, the second man to set foot on the moon. Wow, what an exciting evening this promises to be. Are we going to get to Mars? Well, I'm sure we will one day. One day. Maybe we can find out more. And I'll place a link to more information on where you can snap up your tickets in this week's show notes. Wow, that's going to be a great evening. And thank you very much to National Geographic for bringing this to my attention so I could bring it to your attention. Mars, the live experience. And finally, it's only right and fitting that we acknowledge the passing of a legend in the skeptical sphere. Robert Carroll, who created the Skeptics Dictionary. A site I use frequently, an app I use frequently, and a promotion I play frequently. So in honour of Bob Carroll, here it is again, both versions.
Hey, Kenny.
Oh, hi, Tom.
Nice day at this park, yeah?
Yes, great weather.
Oh, look, a unicorn.
Unicorn? There are no such things as unicorns, silly.
Yes, there is.
No, there isn't.
Hey, guys, what are you arguing about?
Tom thinks unicorns are real.
They so are.
Let's look this up in the Skeptics Dictionary.
The what?
How can we do this in this park? There is no computer here.
You guys probably don't know about the Skeptics Dictionary app. Available now for iPhone, iPad, and iPod Touch in the App Store.
Wow, cool.
The app lets you access all of the great Skeptics Dictionary articles when you're on the go. Here, let me look up unicorns.
Oh, cool. Kenny, prepare to be proven wrong.
It says here, the unicorn is a creature from fables.
Aha!
Actually, I see now that someone just dumped their ice cream cone on that horse's head. Thanks, Skeptics Dictionary iPhone app.
Hey, Heidi.
Oh, hi, Joe.
Hi, Heidi.
Oh, hi, Maynard.
Hi, Maynard.
Oh, hi, Joe.
Nice day in this park, yeah?
Yes, great weather.
Oh, look, a unicorn.
A unicorn? There are no such things as unicorns, silly.
Yes, there are.
No, there isn't.
Hey, ladies, what are you arguing about?
Joe thinks unicorns are real.
They so are.
Let's look this up in the Skeptics Dictionary.
The what?
How can we do that in this park? There are no computers here.
You ladies probably don't know about the Skeptics Dictionary app, available now for iPhone, iPad and iPod Touch in the App Store.
Yeah, we do. We've been listening to the Skeptic Zone for years, you know.
Yes, okay. The app lets you access all the great Skeptics Dictionary articles when you're on the go. Here, let me look up unicorns.
Oh, cool. Heidi, prepare to be proven wrong.
It says here the unicorn is a creature from fables.
Aha!
Actually, I see now that someone just dumped their ice cream cone on that horse's head.
Thanks, Skeptic Dictionary iPhone app.
That's just some guy in his undies.
A great loss to the skeptical community, that of Bob Carroll, but his work lives on at the Skeptics Dictionary. If you haven't seen that site, or if you don't use the app, now might be a good prompt for you to do so. Well, that's all for me at the moment. More information about upcoming events at the end of the show, but now it's time for me to run downstairs. Being careful not to trip over the cats who normally wait outside the studio door, and sometimes they stick their paws underneath trying to grab things. Run downstairs. Open a jar of peanuts. Just peanuts. Roasted peanuts. I think I could eat a ton of them. My goodness me. People who know me know that's my weakness. Well, I munch those. I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone.
Grain of salt. Grain of salt. Grain of salt.
Let's all take this with a grain of salt. Here's Eran Segev.
Grain of salt now. Grain of salt, you gotta take it with a...
Okay, hi Richard.
Hi. Okay, so I'm here with Jelena, Pontus and András from the ESP, which stands for Eran Segev's plan.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah, it stands for the European Skeptics Podcast, right? How long have you been doing this podcast?
Yeah, we started almost a year ago, and we
November 18th.
November 18th for those who's counting. So we met at we met before, but then when we met at the European Skeptics Congress in London last year, we So we need to do something, because the sentiment was all around, we need to do something to boost activism in Europe, right? So what can we do? And there was a lot of ideas going around, but András came up, we need to do a podcast.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I've been meaning to start a podcast myself because I'm a huge podcast listener. That's like crazy, the amount of podcasts I'm subscribed to, including, of course, the Skeptic Zone, which is one of my favorites. And but
that was the right thing to say.
There was one thing that really stuck out. That was the fact that everything was covered except for what's going on in non-English speaking countries regarding skepticism. And it's not 100% true, actually, because it was the Skeptic Zone on which there had been featured a few other countries as well, including Sweden and Hungary. So both of us had been guests on the Skeptic Zone before I came up with that idea.
Okay, so just to point out, because this is a podcast, which is not a very visual medium, that when you said both of us, you're actually speaking about you and yourself and Pontus.
Okay, since I mentioned Sweden,
maybe I'll just break for a second and say, so Jelena, you live in London.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, and Pontus,
I'm from Sweden.
Where in Sweden?
Malmö in Sweden, south of Sweden.
And András,
I'm originally from Hungary, but I live in Brighton in the UK.
Okay, so you kind of represent, and you're actually
I'm from Latvia, yeah. So Latvia, Hungary, and Sweden.
A Latvian. She's a Latvian Russian, actually.
Well, yeah, it's not really that important for the purpose of the podcast, but yes.
Okay, so you represent a fairly wide range of views in terms of from a cultural perspective, from a background perspective. That's very interesting. So in the podcast itself, how does that actually have any effect on the way you present things?
I think so. I think like our backgrounds and our culture, where we came from, we all have like different ways of talking about certain things and kind of thinking about certain things and stuff like that. I don't know. I think I can see the divide certainly between Sweden and Latvia. I don't know. I think Sweden is... it's more like educated country and whatever. Anyway. But yes, there is definitely there's different cultural differences, and we learn from each other every time we do a podcast, or every time we talk about a piece of news and whatever. So yeah.
I think it's hard to put words on it, but definitely we do have different perspectives because we have different backgrounds and partially different cultures, and we have different ways of pronouncing English words sometimes.
That's for sure, and we fight about it all the time.
Yeah. I love the fact that, and only recently found out about that Slavic languages are not very good at using articles. So Jelena, and I started to notice after a while that Jelena doesn't use a definite article very often, and it turns out that it's coming from Russian, and I love these differences in the languages that we are coming from, the language environments that we are coming from. It's hilarious.
But I also think so. Very often when we discuss a piece of art, piece of news that maybe is a little bit sensitive. For example, I know that Pontus is trying to be very politically correct and sort of like...
This is the first I hear of this.
Tread lightly. And I think I am very much... I just say what
Eastern
I think.
European.
Yeah, and it's very, very direct.
The tough
and
one.
we're like, and I'm not saying it's the right way, but it's just the way we are, and I do need to learn to be more sensitive towards, other people's opinions, whatever. So yeah, that's one of the things that I picked up on. I don't know, Pontus, if you picked up on it.
Yes, to some extent, but also I think despite our different backgrounds, we get along very well.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's really
otherwise this wouldn't work.
Coincidental. We didn't really know that when we started, but I think we've developed a friendship that hopefully comes across on the podcast.
But let me say this, that the very reason why I approached you guys with this idea was that you were the people I got along really well with. I get along pretty well with other people as well, and but I had a feeling that
but they were not invited to the podcast, right? So I feel very honored.
We would click pretty well. So No, I didn't mean it to come across as like that, but yeah.
Europe is obviously large, and there's and you represent maybe 3 or 4 different cultures, but between you, but there's obviously multiple cultures. How do you attempt to represent those additional cultures or those additional points of view in the podcast?
So, as András probably he keeps score, we've interviewed countless amount of skeptics from different European countries, and every one of them brings a different perspective to the show, and we learn different things from them. I think that's one way. I mean, András, do you want to pitch in?
Yeah, if you want to hear the numbers, we've interviewed more than 30 people from 20 countries, and we're pretty proud of that. It obviously requires a lot of organization as well, but the other thing is that we are trying to give a perspective when it comes to events like Skeptics in the Pub event and other skeptical gatherings. We try every week we talk about what's coming up next week, and that's. It's probably not very interesting to everyone, but it gives you an idea of how many different events are going on across the continent that we would normally not know about. And that was part of the reasons why we wanted to do this. Because we've got the feedback already that it kind of helps people move forward because they see the examples. They are being encouraged to do that by just hearing about how many different things are going on around them.
There's also, obviously, political divides across Europe. I mean, everything that's happened with the Brexit now, there's the countries that are within European, but are not part of the European Union, or various different degrees of being within or outside the European Union. Do you feel that affects the skeptical activity as well, and how do you deal with that?
Well, I think, not the activities as such, but it changes the way different countries need to focus on different things. We've come across that the Eastern European countries have a different perspective than the Western European countries. Still, it is years and years since the wall came down, but there's still a difference, like, looking at things like spoon bending and such. It's still very current in some countries, but not in others. Another thing I would like to say is that one thing that helped you said we represent 3 different countries, but things like this, we are at QED now in Manchester when we record this, and these kinds of events helps quite a lot because we meet people from all over the world. We meet people from Portugal, from Spain, from Germany, from Switzerland, from Sweden, everywhere, and that gives us a head start because we have people to contact and we have people that we can call if we want to investigate things in different countries.
Do you have any particular plans for the future, for the near term, long term?
András is full of plans.
Yeah, I sometimes when I start a sentence with I've been thinking, then the guys get scared. No, actually, I don't have that many ideas. We would like to improve the website. We would like to make the show a bit more time efficient. Things like that. We would like obviously improve our equipment and stuff.
The YouTube.
Oh yeah, we are about to start a YouTube channel, which we have a few ideas of what to put on there. And the other thing is that we would like to reach out to many more countries, because there are still countries, European countries, that we haven't reached out to yet. And there are others. We plan to share ideas from these countries with others as well. Yeah, and the other thing that's very, very important, that we would like to help the movement to join their efforts. So with the joint efforts, the joint resources, we could even start to build up, for example, a lobbying body, a lobbying force on a European level, which would be absolutely needed. When it comes to regulations regarding homeopathy, for example, that is absolutely a must that we start doing that. And there are organizations starting to reach out to the European level, but we should back that up with the support of all the different organizations from across the continent, and that is a huge task. But now we are teaming up with the European Council of Skeptical Organizations, which is the umbrella organization bringing together all these, and it kind of in the revival state right now, and it is to some extent, I know that for a fact, that to some extent it is thanks to the existence of the show.
I believe there's a conference next year in Poland.
It just came. The website just came alive a couple of days ago, probably a week ago, and it's euroskepticscon.org, I think. But you can European Skeptics Congress. You can find it if you search for that on Google or on Facebook. They have a Facebook page as well. So if someone wants to follow that. There are several ways to do it, and it's going to be a joint event, jointly organized by the Czech skeptics and the Polish skeptics, which is a great joint effort, and they have huge plans. By the way, one of the organizers, Claire Klingenberg, whom we had on the show for an interview as well earlier, much earlier, further back, she's here at the conference at QED as well, so yeah, she could tell you a lot more about that.
Okay, very good. Maybe I'll try to catch her and ask her, because Tom from the Polish Skeptics invited me, and I'll see. I hope to make it. I have Polish ancestry, so it'll be interesting to.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be fun. Yeah.
Yes.
You have quite a mixed ancestry, don't you?
I do. I actually do. I'll tell you about it off air.
We all do. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, if people want to find out more about what you do, where do they go?
Of course, they can email us. Our email address is info@theesp.eu. They can also follow us on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @espodcast_eu. Of course, they can also go onto our website, which is theesp.eu, or like us on Facebook. And don't forget about the iTunes. If you listen to our podcast, please like us on iTunes and give us maybe 5-star and a review, and it helps us a lot. Thank you very much.
And don't forget to subscribe.
Oh, yes, of course. Well, let's come, without saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, guys.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Grain of salt now. Grain of salt, you gotta take it with a...
The Skeptic Magazine, the journal from Australian skeptics. Subscribe online to the world's second oldest skeptical magazine. Visit www.skeptics.com.au and click the publications link. You can also find there over 30 years of back issues free to download. The Skeptic, the magazine from Australian skeptics. Written by Jane Hansen, published to the Daily Telegraph, dailytelegraph.com.au. Natural cancer treatment. Patient turned down chemotherapy but nearly killed himself. GREG Melhuish turned to natural therapies to cure his cancer, and it nearly killed him. That's the message he now wants to share in the hope it will save lives. The Byron Shire resident lives in an area renowned for its alternative lifestyle and abundance of natural therapy choices. But Mr. Melhuish said the downside was a, quote, suspicion of big pharma, end quote, and the medical profession in general. The popular DJ was diagnosed with metastasized cancer of the colon, which had moved to his liver last November. His doctor offered chemotherapy, which he turned down. Quote, when I was diagnosed, I commenced a full treatment of natural therapies, consisting of many things and methods that I regularly hear mentioned. I decided to give myself 3 months on alternative therapies. I was hoping for a natural miracle, but for me, it was a false hope. I nearly killed myself. I saw a local guy, and my natural therapies consisted of a whole bunch of herbs and mushrooms and enzymes and detoxing stuff, and I got really ill. It was about $500 worth of stuff. Then I had vitamin C infusions at a clinic in Robina and heat tent treatment, hypothermic treatment, at $500 an hour, but I was just money against the wall, end quote. On another recommendation, he turned to a, quote, master pranic healer, end quote, or energy healer who claimed to have cured him. Quote, I went to this master pranic healer in Brisbane and he took an aura photograph and said, look how bad your liver is. And I said, I know. And then he said, I'm going to do all this work on you. And then took another aura photo and said, look how greatly reduced it is. He was saying, look, it's nearly gone. It's a miracle. You're cured. He really thought he was doing something, but he was deluded. But I didn't feel any better, and a week later I was in hospital, and a new CT scan showed my liver was riddled, and here's a healer telling me he cured me. It was a joke. At this point, Mr. Melhuish started chemotherapy. Quote, I started a 12-week course, and I was pretty happy. It has done a lot more than the natural stuff. The chemo is difficult and not easy, but it is worth it. End quote, he said, adding the delay had cost him dearly. Quote, I would be in an even better state if I had commenced chemotherapy when I was first diagnosed. I would have an even greater life expectancy and better health than I have right now. I made a choice, and it was the wrong bloody choice. It is a nice thought that natural therapies can heal, but this is a serious disease, and eating lettuce leaves and alkaline food, and if you just eat baking powder, you'll be cured, well, that is just ridiculous. End quote, the 62-year-old said. Sydney oncologist Professor Fran Boyle said she had seen dozens of sad cases of people who had rejected chemotherapy and conventional Western medicine in favour of alternatives, only to return when it is too late. Quote, they'll say they are worried about the side effects, and they'll take their chances, and the ones that come back are in desperate circumstances. And the temptation to say, I told you so, is very strong. I'd like to say this could have been avoided, end quote, Professor Boyle said. Quote, I had a patient whose husband was a conspiracy theorist, saying we had an interest in not curing cancer so we could sell chemotherapy, and he took his wife to Mexico, and she died a year ago. Just this week, I had a young woman who elected not to have treatment for what was a very treatable cancer, and it was very distressing to know she missed out on treatment that could have cured her, and now she's at death's door. She was having intravenous vitamin C and a number of herbs by alternative practitioners that gave her the belief that her cancer could be controlled, end quote. Part of the problem, she said, is that doctors are, quote, just being honest, end quote, when they detail side effects of chemotherapy, and some people prefer to take a natural route and avoid side effects. However, she said, they simply don't work. Quote, a treatment without side effects is generally not going to work, end quote, she said. And that report comes to us from the journalist Jane Hansen, who does many fine reports involving quackery and the goings-on of the anti-vaccination movement, published at the Sunday Telegraph, available at dailytelegraph.com.au, with a link in this week's show notes.
You've argued against the same woo so many times you can do it in your sleep. Quit trying to stop the nonsense one person at a time. Join Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia. Help us make sure the best skeptical information is always at everyone's fingertips. We need writers, editors, translators. We need you. And take as much or as little time as you can give us. Help us make Wikipedia as accurate as it can be, and you'll literally be helping people while you sleep. To join us or find out more, send a Facebook friend request to Susan Gerbic. That's GERBIC. Guerrilla Skepticism. The time is now.
It's the Raw Skeptic Report with Heidi Robertson.
Hello everyone. Australia appears to be renowned globally for housing a whole host of dangerous marine and land critters which can bite you to death or inject you with neurotoxins so potent that one bite is enough to kill 20 adults. If you live in Australia and have overseas friends or relatives, you are likely to have heard from them, "How can you live there? I'd be terrified every day from getting bitten by a snake, crocodile, spider, shark, drop bear." Let's face it, us Aussies are not averse to somewhat embellishing the risks of visiting our awesome country. It's pretty cool for the rest of the world to think how brave and tough we are, being able to survive our whole lives in such a perilous environment. Our reputation for being a hazardous place to live wasn't helped when the seemingly indestructible Steve Irwin, aka the crocodile hunter, was killed as a result of being speared through the chest by the barb of a stingray, a freak occurrence that happened whilst he was filming them underwater back in 2006 for a documentary called Ocean's Deadliest. And it's true, yes, we do have great white sharks, saltwater crocs, box jellyfish, eastern brown snakes, funnel web spiders, the blue-ringed octopus, cone snails, and quite a few seemingly terrifying critters. We've even had a humorous song written about our array of dangerous creatures by the Scared Weird Little Guys. The actual risk, as opposed to the perceived risk, that these animals pose to us is a different matter. Statistically, as far as deaths from the animal kingdom goes, a visitor or resident here is more likely to be killed as a result of a fall from a horse, their car hitting a cow, or an attack from a dog than they are of a snake, spider, shark or croc attack. Let's talk about perhaps the most common thing people are frightened of, at least this is the case from what I've heard from people, and that is snakes. Associate Professor Brian Fry, a herpetologist and venom expert at the University of Queensland, notes in an article for Australian Geographic that snake bites are, quote, actually quite rare in Australia, and since the development of antivenom, fatalities have been low, between 4 to 6 deaths a year. This is in contrast to India, for example, where bites may reach 1 million a year with over 50,000 deaths, end quote. He goes on to say, quote, snake bites are very, very rare in Australia and often the fault of the person being bitten. Most bites occur when people are trying to kill a snake or show off, end quote. It's also important to remember that snakes would prefer to not interact with humans. They just want to be left to their snaky activities. Their venom is extremely energy intensive for them to produce, and the last thing they want to do is waste it on us when its purpose is to kill their prey before they can devour it. Because of this, the vast majority of snake bites are what are known as dry bites, where little to no venom will be injected at all. I've also had people ask me if it's true that you should wash the snake bite site, cut the bite site, spit on the bite site, suck on the bite site, even urinate on the bite site. I'm blaming John Wayne movies for these ideas. We do not wash the bite site because identification of venomous snakes can be made from venom present on clothing or the skin using a venom detection kit. Likewise, cutting and or sucking the bite site just delays the correct treatment and risks infection. Go ahead and urinate on the victim of a nasty blue bottle sting, if they let you. The warmth of the urine may relieve the pain for as long as you are able to maintain a steady stream. You may need to line up a few willing people behind you with full bladders in order to have sufficient quantities of urine to maintain effective pain relief. Personally, I'd rather suffer the pain of the sting than be urinated on, but that's just me, that's not my thing. There is not any magical quality to the urine, no matter what the urine therapy people tell you, that denatures the venom. It is purely the warmth that provides the pain relief. Another common misconception is that if you cannot see paired puncture marks after a snake bite, then you cannot have been bitten. It is not uncommon for bites to be painless and without visible marks or just a scratch. Out of interest, I googled homeopathy and snake bite. There were nearly 64,000 hits. One of the top hits on the first page said, quote, "Can homeopathy relieve snake bites? Absolutely. Any kind of poisonous bites, whether it is an insect bite or a snake bite, can quite easily be relieved with a homeopathic remedy that fits the case. Snake bites can be potentially life-threatening, and ideally a remedy has to be given as quickly as possible." End quote. Over to bee stings. Although less than 3% of Australians are allergic to bee or wasp venom, allergies to their venom are still responsible for more annual average deaths than sharks, spiders or snakes separately. A severe allergic reaction known as anaphylaxis can occur within seconds to minutes, resulting in the airways becoming constricted and a dangerous drop in blood pressure. Of course, homeopaths claim to be able to treat anaphylaxis too. Just pop an Apis mellifica, I don't know how that's pronounced, 30C sugar pill under the tongue and watch that airway closure go away within seconds. Another homeopathy website I came across had a comment section where a mother was describing her young daughter who had an extremely nasty reaction to a bee sting. There was no mention by the owner of the page to ensure the child be seen by a GP or immunologist. She merely advised the mother to use an even more dilute tincture the next time the child had an anaphylactic episode. It took me all of 2 minutes to find dozens of natural therapy sites from all over the world claiming success with treating life-threatening bites and stings. For the actual evidence-based treatment for bites and stings, here's a bit of shameless self-promotion. You can go to my website's blog section at www.accreditedfirstaid.com.au, where I have put an edited version of this report along with the appropriate treatment. So if you are overseas and have been put off by a trip to Australia because of our reputation for things that eat and bite humans, get rid of that fear and come visit our beautiful, diverse, wonderful country. Thanks for listening. Till next time, this has been Heidi Robertson.
Logical LA, changing the world through skepticism and critical thinking. Save the date, January the 13th to the 15th, 2017, at the Hyatt LAX Airport. Early bird specials end on the 1st of November, so be quick to register. In support of the scientific skeptic movement, Logical LA creates a place for critical thinkers to meet face-to-face and to experience presentations from nationally recognised speakers who will share their knowledge and insights with us. Come join us as we build a nationwide community at Los Angeles' only conference for skeptics. Besides having some of the best speakers in the nation coming to speak on various topics, Logical LA will present an exciting mix of events during the weekend. Friday night, anti-superstition party. Saturday night, comedy show. Sunday, assembly meeting. Sunday afternoon, geological field trip. Sunday afternoon movie with director and executive producer. And finally, during the weekend, a Sunday night secular concert. We hope you can attend this unique and enlightening conference. With speakers like Eugenie Scott, Joan Nicol, Harriet Hall, Elizabeth Loftus, DJ Grothy, Brian Dunning, Seth Andrews and many more, this promises to be an enlightening weekend. For more information and to grab your tickets, visit logical.com. That's LOGICALLA, logical.com. Logical LA at the Hyatt Hotel at Los Angeles Airport from the 13th to the 15th of January 2017. Joining me now all the way from sunny Invercargill in New Zealand, which is, have a look at your maps, folks. It's right down the bottom part of New Zealand. From the New Zealand Skeptics Committee, it's Brad MacClure. Hello, Brad.
Hi, Richard.
Hello, good to see you, because of course we are, through the wonders of modern technology, seeing each other at the moment. Now, I thought I'd better give the New Zealand Skeptics a call, get in touch, because you people have kindly flying me out there in, only about 40 days' time now to the New Zealand Skeptics Convention. That's very exciting. What can you tell our listeners about that?
Well, it's in lovely Queenstown this year. Well, actually, it's in Frankton technically, but that's part of Queenstown, right underneath the airport. And we're having it in the St John's ambulance rooms, just in case.
Just in case?
Yeah, no, it's going to be. We've got a great lineup of speakers, and Queenstown's a fun place to be, even if you don't go to the conference, or if you decide that you don't like the conference, just pay us the money and then go and have a bungee jump.
Bungee jumping. Well, I was just about to say, Queenstown is a very popular tourist destination. You get tourists there from all over the world, and it's not just bungee jumping, is it?
No, that's right. All sorts of thrill-seeking activities go on there, including jet boat riding and all sorts of stuff like that.
Yes, Queenstown's a very popular destination, known worldwide, of course, and not only for bungee jumping. I think it's a very popular winter sports area at the right time of year.
Well, yeah, that's right. It's kind of a stone's throw from several ski fields, including Coronet Peak and Cardrona, the Remarkables, and there's a massive big lake there with a really old steamer that puts around it, and guys that will take you on a jet boat tour if you want to, all that sort of stuff.
I certainly look forward to being very busy at your conference, giving some talks and maybe taking part in whatever else I can do. But of course, I will be in very good company this time around visiting the conference. Let me kick off straight away with mentioning to our listeners that one of the other guests is none other than Susan Gerbic, an old friend of mine from Guerrilla Skepticism.
Fabulous. I'm really excited that we've got Susan coming. She's, of course, the founder of GSOW, Guerrilla Skepticism on Wikipedia, and it's something that I spotted that a few years ago, her doing that. She's been doing it for a few years now, hasn't she?
Oh, yes.
And fabulous thing. I mean, Wikipedia is such an important resource. I mean, nowadays, anytime you Google something, whether it be a pseudoscience or even a good science, or if you Google Deepak Chopra or Dr. Oz, it often goes straight to Wikipedia.
Susan Gerbic, what a champion she is, and I know she'll give a great talk there at the convention.
Yeah, I'm planning on working her very hard, and she's. I'm hoping to get her to do a workshop and get us all editing. It's something that I would love to get into myself, but I just haven't had the time to get involved with it.
I had the pleasure of attending one of her lessons in Australia, about a year or so ago, and it was so interesting, so good. But there are a host of other guests you have coming over.
Yep. You probably know more about Loretta Maron than I do.
Ah, the Jelly Bean Lady, that's right. She's one of our favourite skeptics here in Australia.
Right, yes. Right, so I'm looking forward to Loretta. So Mark Bryan is... I don't know where to start with Mark. Mark has literally got more letters after his name than he has in it. He's a local vet.
Yeah, there's certainly no shortage of quackery when it comes to veterinary practice.
There is. Maybe he'll talk about homeopathy in veterinary practice, or maybe he did mention something about how the public can be fooled. Yeah. So we've got Catherine Lowe, who is a science teacher. She's into effective altruism, which is another very important topic that we'd all like to know more about, but we don't take the time to learn. So she's there to tell us about that, which will be great. And Scott Kennedy, he's a Queenstown-based artist, writer, photographer, filmmaker, and musician. Also got, of course, you know about Mark Hanna.
Mark Hanna, the consumer advocate.
Yes, yeah.
A very important part of skepticism, of course, is consumer activism. We're very familiar with that here in Australia. I think it's something that a lot of people don't pay enough attention to, I think, but a lot of people are getting ripped off by bad science and dodgy products, as we know. So I think it's pretty important to be a skeptical consumer advocate.
Yeah, and we do seem to have a good contingent of the skeptical activism type skeptics in our midst here, which is great. And I heard Mark talk in 2014, and I loved what he had to say. And he gave a kind of a workshop, I guess, about how to make ASA complaints, Advertising Standard Authority complaints.
Very important, absolutely. Yeah, everyone should have a crash course at least in how to do that to get your complaints through to the right sort of people. Folks, as we're talking, of course, Brad and I are both glancing towards our monitors to check out the website, and you can do that too at conference.skeptics.nz. NZ, of course, is the call sign for New Zealand. All the speakers are listed up there, and I must say that there's a very flattering photograph of me taken from about, maybe 6 or 7 or 8 years ago. I almost look the same, except for the slight greying of the hair, I think.
Tell me, Richard, did you take your glasses off for that photo because you were worried that people might think you were really, really smart?
Well, to be honest, when that photograph was taken, I wasn't wearing glasses. I only had them on occasionally for reading. But in the last couple of years, I've had to take up wearing glasses permanently, so that's why.
Yeah. Oh, I see. There's just a couple of other speakers I'd like to mention.
Sure.
Andrew Digby. Andrew is he's a scientist. He's working on the kakapo recovery. Now, I have to say, do you know much about New Zealand birds?
A little, and this bird is particularly cheeky and famous, I think.
Oh, it's one of the parrots. Yeah, we have a few native parrots. But I'd just like to say that New Zealand birds, Richard, are very much like their people. They tend to be quiet, they're not very flighty, and they're green, much like the people. And whereas Australian birds, of course, are very colourful and loud.
Loud, yes.
Yeah.
and cause a lot of trouble in packs or flocks.
Oh, that's right. And they breed well as well, of course. Right. Our birds don't breed too well,
There's the difference.
So Andrew is a bit of a hero. He works with Doc, I believe, and he's a scientist. In fact, before he got into biology, he already had a PhD in astronomy.
Ooh.
And had a postdoctoral fellowship with NASA.
An impressive man.
Yeah, amazingly enough. So he is going to be really interesting. I'm very excited. And then lastly, Tanya Lynham is she's a science teacher from Invercargill. Yeah, she's a member of my Facebook group, Friends of Science and Reason in the South. She won the Prime Minister's Science Teacher Prize last year. The other thing about the conference is the Saturday evening dinner is going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, yes.
Stuart Lansborough, he's a prominent skeptic, and he has an outfit in Wanaka called Puzzling World. He's got a maze and a whole lot of really clever illusionary stuff, like rooms that you walk into and you feel like you're walking downhill, but you're actually walking uphill and stuff like that.
Oh, yes, clever stuff.
But we're having the Saturday evening dinner at Puzzling World.
Oh, wow.
So that's going to be great fun. There's some fantastic illusions there and really interesting things to look at.
Well, there's something to look forward to, absolutely. Well, I'll have to bring, and in fact I've alluded to this already, I'll have to bring some divining rods. I think during the course of the convention we can test out, people who come along, we can test out their possible divining skills. That might be a lot of fun.
Yes, that will be great fun. And I've got Mark is going to bring a pile of spoons for you to teach us all to bend.
That's it. Now, a message to all people listening in New Zealand. Here's the hint, folks. The website again, conference.skeptics.nz. The convention conference is in Queenstown from the 2nd to the 4th of December, and you can get your tickets and make your bookings from that website. Check out all the speakers and more information about the convention itself, including a map, how to get there, and all sorts of other information. There's a countdown clock, which is ticking down, not long to go now. What can I say? I'm very excited. I haven't been to the South Island for easily 10 years. In fact, I was very pleased. About 10 years ago, I was a guest before at the New Zealand's Skeptics Conference, but it's been a long time between drinks, I must say. Best not leave it to the last minute, folks. If you're in New Zealand, have a look at that website today. Don't delay. And if you're a Skeptic Zone listener and you come to the conference, please come up and say hello and we'll have a chat. I'd love to meet you. Well, Brad, I look forward to meeting you in person and all the New Zealand skeptics. I'll bring some spoons. I'll have spoons thrust upon me. I'll bring a bag of tricks, and I think we'll have a really good time.
It's going to be great.
But for now, Brad MacClure, all the way from Invercargill, thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard.
Are you sceptical about dance music? Yes, in 1997, if you had said that in 2016 the Venga Boys would sell out 6 of their 10 shows across Australia before they even got here, if you'd said that, people would have thought you were mad. In fact, here's a recording of Richard Dawkins saying that exact thing. Those Venga Boys will amount to nothing. Celebrity voice impersonator. Yes, I'll be the MC. That's me, Maynard the MC, for your Venga Boys tour across Australia. With Sonic, Crystal Waters, Wigfield. It's just going to be a huge late 90s blowout. That's right, the late 90s has gone retro, people. Doesn't that make you feel old, Mr. Dawkins? I don't like you. Celebrity voice impersonated. So, if you live in Brisbane, Hobart, Sydney, Adelaide or Perth, you can see the Venga Boys. Or maybe you're just a bit too sceptical for that kind of behaviour. I said I didn't like you. Celebrity voice impersonated. Oh, shut up and just send one of those tweets that gets everybody angry again. That was me. That wasn't a celebrity.
Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone this week. Now, a little bit more information coming our way. We noticed that Sharon Hill, who was on this Skeptic Zone only a couple of weeks ago from Doubtful News, will be visiting Australia in May next year. She's taking part in the Paracon. Yeah, the paranormal convention, which I spoke at earlier this year. I can't wait to see Sharon. She's going to be in Sydney. We'll see if we can snag her for a meeting or a talk or something, a dinner, I don't know. Sharon Hill coming to Australia, so that's something to look out for around about May next year. Now, last week on the show I mentioned the Aquapole device. If you're curious, I've been doing a lot of research into this. It's a device that you hang from the ceiling, and the claim is it will fix rising damp. The problem or the worry or the skeptical angle is it's got no moving parts and doesn't require any power to work. A few red flags there. We're also looking at something called Metatron NLS. There's something else for you to Google and marvel at. Metatron, sounds like something from the Transformers, NLS. I'll let all you budding skeptical investigators check that one out. In fact, I think I'll be looking at this device very soon. There's another Mindbody wallet coming up, and I'll probably go along and have a look. As ever, thank you to those wonderful people who chip in to the Skeptic Zone. Some people chip in $1 a week. Some people chip in $1 a month, which is fine. I'm very grateful. Some people a little bit more, $5 or $10. Every penny goes to help produce the Skeptic Zone. In fact, just the other day, I was very happy I was able to help out our reporter Maynard to buy some equipment which will be used for the Skeptic Zone, which is fantastic, and it's thanks to people like you. And as you heard in the Skeptic Zone, Maynard's going to be fronting the Venga Boys tour. That's exciting. Link in the show notes, folks. Link in the show notes. Again, wow, what's that got to do with skepticism? Not too much, I guess. But it's good to be able to support someone like Maynard, who puts in an awful lot of effort to support the Skeptic Zone and to bring you interesting reports. Maynard.com.au. Check out his podcasts and website. Oh, and if you go and see the Venga Boys, please give Maynard a big warm applause and a big shout. Get off! No, something nice. But for this week, I think that's all I have to say. Where are those cats? No, they're not here at the moment. Hiding around the corner. For this week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for contacts, an archive of all episodes since 2008, and our online store. Please support the Skeptic Zone by following us on Twitter @SkepticZone, liking us on Facebook, and leaving a review on iTunes. You can also show your support by subscribing via PayPal for as little as 99 cents a week. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics Inc. or any other skeptical organisation.
By the barb of a stingray, a freak occurrence that happened